Hello! If you're new to my channel, I'm Sandra Bowers and I'm a freelance illustrator, and today we're going to paint a super cute cactus in Procreate. I'm using my super simple watercolor brush set. I'll leave a link in the comments so you can purchase it if you like, but you can also follow along with your own brushes. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you get notified when I post new videos. I'm going to create a greeting card with my cactus illustration. This is a 6x8 canvas at 300 dpi. I usually create my canvas as big as I can, but for the purpose of this video, I'm making it smaller. I have my installed brushes here, so if you purchase them and you don't know how to install them, I have another video here on YouTube where you can learn how to install brushes. So after you've downloaded and installed them, you'll find them here in your brush library. The first thing I like to do is create my hot press watercolor paper surface. You can use any color, maybe a light yellow or gray, or maybe a mixture of them. It depends on what effect you want. Make sure you have the brush set to the maximum size and maximum opacity, and you're going to draw and cover your whole canvas without lifting your finger or your pencil. If you lift it, you will have these ugly overlap lines and you don't want that, so make sure not to lift it. You can make as many passes as you want. Here I have gone over it 2 times. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it has some texture, but not too much. I can add another pass if I want. Yeah, I think that's cool. You can go back and add more later, or you can reduce the opacity of the whole layer to make it lighter if you want. So I'm going to set that layer to linear burn, and I'm going to call it paper texture. I like to rename all my layers so they're organized. You can also try other different modes like multiply, just play around with it. If you swipe to the left on that layer, you can lock it so you're sure you're never painting on it, and this layer should always be on the top of the stack for it to work. Now let's create a new layer and drag it underneath, and here we're going to create the cactus body. I'm going to show you something before we start. For the basic shapes, I like to use my details brush, my fills brush, or my soft fill brush. This is the green color I'm using. These brushes have something called a fall off effect. It means that the paint will run out just like a regular brush. So you start building your shape very happy, and then the paint runs out. And then you start again. And then you have that ugly line there. But the Add Water blend brush will save you. It will simulate like adding water. So I'm just touching softly here. And the line disappears and it looks so pretty. Try not to work with this brush in like very straight lines because then you'll have very obvious marks, unless that's what you're going for. And I like trying to vary the pressure and painting in different areas, so it's more erratic like regular watercolors. Okay, I just wanted to show you that so you know how to get rid of the ugly lines and you don't have to worry if that happens to you. If you want to create a sketch first, you can use the details brush and just create a new layer on top of this one for your sketch. And draw your sketch. And then you can just reduce the opacity of it here. And when you're done, you can just delete it. Since the cactus is a very basic shape, I'm not going to use a sketch, but feel free to use one if you want. I'm using my soft fill brush, and make sure it has full opacity and make it big. Here I'm pressing harder, and here I'm pressing softer. My pencil just got lifted there, so it will start adding more paint. I'll show you here. If I keep going, it will eventually run out. So then you have to press again. Okay, I want it to be darker in some areas, so I'll go back in there. Now let's create the arms. or heads? Leaves? I don't know. I'm sure they have a proper name, but they're going to be little heads. You can reduce the brush size to make different sizes. Then I want to blend that in a bit, so I'm going to use the Add Water Blend brush. I'm pressing softly, and I'm going to add some shadows with the Burnt Edges brush. If you go to your layer and you swipe to the right, you get the checkerboard. That means Alpha Lock is on. It means you can only paint on top of your drawing. That's really great for this Burnt Edges brush. Now I'm going to add some shadows and I don't have to be worried that I'm painting outside my shape. This cactus will not look exactly like the one on my brush previous because every time they look different, just like real watercolors, and I love that. See? Every time I go in, it makes the shadows darker and darker. I don't want them to be so dark. So I'll undo that. And I always add a bit to the border so it looks more like traditional watercolors, like when they sometimes the paint concentrates in the border and it gets darker. And then I blend again so it's not so harsh. If that's too strong, you can reduce the opacity so it looks like you're just adding some water and not so much paint. And that's ready. This is a super simple technique and you'll have it down in no time. I'm going to create the pot now. For that, I'm going to use the fill brush because I want a more precise shape. You'll see here that the edges of this brush are not super defined, and I want something more defined for the pot. So I'll use this color. Here you'll see the hex code. I'll make it smaller. And since all these brushes are transparent, if you want to get rid of those transparencies where you can see the cactus, just keep adding more layers of paint. That's kind of crooked, so I'm going to straighten it out. This is a great thing about digital watercolors. I couldn't do that in a traditional painting and I probably would have ruined my painting by now. I'll also make it a bit rounder. If you have these lines you don't like, just go in again with the Add Water Blend brush and blend them out. I'm going to use the Details brush to add some dirt. I'm using this dark brown. It's hard for me to draw this because if I tilt my pencil, it's going to make thicker lines, and I want thinner lines, so I have to keep it straight. But I don't want to cover what the camera can see, so I hope you can see these. I'm trying to keep my pencil straight. And I'm making a dark area here. Same here. See those little imperfections? I like them, but you can just cover them if you're not comfortable with them. I just think it makes everything look like it's hand-drawn and not so computer-generated. So there we have that part. Now I want to add some shadows because it's looking very flat. I'll swipe left so I get the alpha lock, and I'll use the burnt edges brush with the same color I painted the base before. I'm going to reduce the opacity a bit and make it bigger. just add some darker areas. You can tap if you want so you don't get just straight lines. I like tapping better. Great, now I'll just add my details. So I'm going to choose the white. I always love adding white gouache details or Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white to my regular watercolors, so this is kind of the same. I just feel like the sharp white against the watercolors brings the details out. See, these details are still very transparent because it's watercolor brush. So if you want to create some that are bolder and more defined, you can just go to the sketching set that comes in Procreate and choose the 6B pencil. And this lets you add details way faster because it's not transparent, so you don't have to go over them several times. Now I'm going to add the details to the cactus. So I'll go back to the super simple brush set and grab the details brush. I'm going to grab a darker green and just add some lines. I'm going to add some white dots too. Again, because it's very transparent, you can use this brush and go over them several times like I'm doing, or you can use the 6B brush. I'm not going to add the spikes yet because I want to do that after I add the eyes. But before that, I'm going to create the flowers. For that, I'm going to use the Add Water Blend brush. I'm using this pink. Make sure it's at maximum opacity because this brush is very transparent. And I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm just creating very simple shapes here. I like this brush because it's so soft and then it can add shadows very easily. And it looks so watercolory. It's probably one of my favorite. So add as many flowers as you want and make them as dark or as light as you want. I'm just going to add some details to it by using the details brush and just give them a bit of definition. Now let's create a new layer for the background wash. I'm going to move this one under everything and I'm going to use the soft wash for that. I'm using this yellow. I'm pressing softly and I'm going to go in several times. The more you paint, the more you can see the effects. And try to overlap it randomly so you get some color bleeds. And then you're like, oh my god, this is too dark, it looks so ugly. Just go in and you can reduce the opacity here. Ah, we saved it. That happens sometimes in real watercolors and it's really bad because there's nothing you can do. Okay, so now that it's saved, I'm not liking the very white paper in the back. So I'm going to change my background color to a bit more of off-white, like a bit warmer. Here you can see the hex value. I think it looks better. If you don't know what color goes well, you can also change your background color this way. Select the disc here and then start moving it around and try different colors and see what you like. See, that one looks cute too. And then you can make it lighter or darker, but I think I'll stick to the white one. So all of this is looking a bit off center. So if I select these layers by swiping to the right on each one and then choosing the select tool, I can move them all together. I think that looks better. I'm going to create a new layer and call it eyes. And I'll use my details brush. It's so simple. I just select the white we just used for the background and I'm going to adjust the brush size and make circles. You can go over them again if you want them to be wider, and you can reduce the size or make it bigger so it's easier. Just add your own personality to it, and there's like 1,000 ways to create eyes, so just experiment. It doesn't have to look like mine, and actually it's better if it doesn't look like mine, because if you try to develop your own style, you don't have to be waiting for somebody else to draw whatever you want to draw, and you can actually be the creator. You don't have to follow anybody. That's great when you're learning, but it's better to start developing your own style. How does that happen? You ask. Because I still ask myself the same thing. Well, it only happens by drawing and drawing and drawing a million times. I'll show you in a bit a tool that will help you experiment. I'm using black and I'll make my brush a bit smaller and then we'll start making them look in different directions. Don't make them all the same so it's more interesting. Like, this one is really upset about something, so he's gonna actually have some mad eyebrows. I just like making up stories in my mind as I go, and I find it's nice that people can go around and find little details that might make them smile. This one is kind of spooked or worried about something. Just add different things and have fun, and you can add like eyebrows and noses and glasses, whatever comes to your mind. You can use the selection tools to move around the facial features. Make sure freehand is selected, and then you can play around with these, and this is how you find your style. Maybe I like the eyes to be here, or maybe it has gigantic eyes. Maybe you want your eyes to be super separated. Oh my god, that's so cute! See, this is how you find things that you like in your art, and then you take note of that and you use it for your illustrations. Then you can move the mouth, or maybe he has a super elongated face and he also wants to have a mustache. Oh my god, this is ugly. Anyway, just play around and find a style that you like. I'm just going to go back in my cactus details layer. I still have my details brush selected and I'm going to use a dark green to add some spikes randomly. I'll just speed this up because it's just lines. I forgot this guy's tongue, so I'll go back to the eyes layer and I'll choose the same pink and add a little tongue. Since I'm covering a dark area, I have to go in several times so you can actually see it. Remember, the brushes are transparent. We're done with the cactus, and now we want to create some lettering. I would just add another layer for the lettering, and I'm going to use my details brush and black. See that it's hard to get smooth letters? I'm going to show you a trick, and you can use this for any brush that you have, and it will create smoother lines. Just duplicate that brush and go into the brush, and here in stroke path, you can increase the streamline to about 60%. And then go to the About This brush and rename it so you know what it is, and press Done. And then this way, it's so much easier to write with it because it makes smoother lines. That's too big, but since we have it in a separate layer, we can easily move it around and rotate it and make it perfect. And I'll go back in with my details brush and we'll make the little banner. I am going to get these ugly overlaps here, but it doesn't matter, we'll fix that later. My paint keeps running out, so I just lift my pencil and start painting again. And then just choose the water blend brush and make it smaller so I don't go outside the lines and I can blend in those ugly overlapping areas. You can also use your eraser and fix some areas that you don't like. And then I'll just use my details for lettering brush again. And we're done. I hope you had fun painting with me. And follow me on Instagram at Sandra Bowers Art and tag me so I can see what you make. I'll leave the link to the brushes in the description box below, and remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video if you had fun. See ya! Bye!